Ladies and gentlemen, we are here live with Siim Land, who is definitely rock star status in the biohacking scene. 26 years old, author of 7 books, each of them about this fat. He is working on reducing the font sizes and has become an expert on the human metabolism, really understanding how the pathways work, and is here talking about resilience, or as we prefer to discuss it, anti-fragility. We'll get into that. But first of all, in terms of resilience, in terms of stress, hormesis, how do you think about these things?
Well, I think it's essential for just surviving the chaotic nature of the world. So like one of the things that we can be sure of is that, uncertainty is out there, bad things are going to happen, and we can't really do much about it. We can only control our own responses to those things. And one of the ways of preparing for these negative events in advance is to just practice, becoming stronger by stress and practicing these hormetic activities that strengthen our body and strengthen our mind, keep us healthy, and more resilient against stress.
Okay, so your body of work, the real message that you're trying to share with people is understand about stress and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there is a misconception about stress that it's only bad, that you want to avoid it. But the truth is that, of course, too much stress can be bad. Chronic stress is associated with many diseases, but there can also be, silver lining. It can be a positive thing. So it matters only the amount of stress you experience, when you experience it, and how are you able to recover from it, or whether at all. So everything has this. Everything has its benefits and its negatives, and everything has the right dose of something. Like too much exercise can be bad, but too little exercise is also definitely harmful. So you have to find what's the optimal amount of that stress and how do you recover from it faster and not be wiped out from it.
Okay, so one of the core principles that you're just talking about is finding the balance between not enough and not too much.
Yes. That's
one of the principles?
Yeah.
What are the other core principles?
Well, I would say that maybe the principle would be that you can't expect to run a marathon if you haven't trained for it before. You could try, but you're gonna experience a whole more negative side effects compared to if you have practiced or trained for it in advance. Mm-hmm. So maybe stress is always subjective. Something that is harmful for, let's say, someone who has practiced a lot of exercise or who has built up the stress resilience, is something harmful for them is definitely going to be much more harmful for someone who is not used to the stress. So everyone has the level of stress resilience and adaptation, and it's a matter of the individual or the subjective person who is experiencing the stress.
Yeah, and so the way to understand your own stress level is to just be self-aware and feel it. Do you have any techniques for knowing what is finding the right balance?
Well, of course, there are some biomarkers that you can look at. All these comorbidities and elevated blood sugar, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. Those can be the signs of too much stress, especially. But at the same time, you're more predisposed to getting those comorbidities as well if you're experiencing not enough of these beneficial stressors, because exercise is, of course, one of the best known ways of reducing your risk of all diseases and being just healthier. So it can go both ways. But generally, I would look at just your own physiological biomarkers, and maybe the easiest thing to track on a daily basis is the heart rate variability. That's a good example of indicating the state of your nervous system. If your heart rate variability is high, then you're recovered, you're able to experience more stress, whereas if your heart rate variability is low, then your stress resilience is also lower, and you're vulnerable, so to say.
Nice. So that would, I guess, be via the Oura Ring, a very familiar brand in the biohacking circles.
Yes.
Any other important fundamentals about stress?
Yeah, we talked about it before as well, that there's we talk about stress resilience and this ability to deal with stress, but we often not talk about anti-fragility. So anti-fragility is the ability to gain from stress, whereas fragility, being fragile, is that you're not able to tolerate any stress at all. You're going to break into pieces immediately when you experience some pressure or tension. But anti-fragile things, they grow, they get stronger from it.
And a resilient thing, by definition, has no effect on
Yes.
stress.
Yeah, and Nassim Nicholas Taleb talks about it in his book as well, that the resilient things are indifferent towards the stress. They don't really...
They don't get stronger.
They don't get stronger, they don't get weaker, they're just, indifferent. But
And for the audience, Nassim Taleb fits into my list of people who should be remembered in 1,000 years, which is a
Yes.
very short list. So if you
sure.
haven't come across his work, I personally recommend it. It's good to hear you're recommending it. Also a fellow Lebanese, by the way.
yeah,
Okay, so the concept of anti-fragility is the exact definition of something which gets stronger by stress.
yes.
And we're talking stress from exercise, stressing your muscles, your physical system, stress from fasting, from
Yeah.
stressing your
Yeah. Another examples can be like heat stress, saunas,
Yes.
cold,
stress,
but also like all the psychological stress. You don't get anxious, you don't lose your grip on things, and you have a pretty great way of dealing with like chaotic environments. You stay calm when the ish hits the fan.
Yes, and the way I like to think about that is getting outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
If you're inside your comfort zone, you're not stressing yourself. Get out of your comfort zone. Don't go too far out. That's when you
sure.
get into the panic zone.
Yeah.
It's also about flow states.
Like I would imagine, like because like flow states happen when you are maybe encountering some difficult situations, like skateboarders, they get into the flow state, Navy SEALs or like warriors, and they do experience flow states, and it may help you to kind of navigate the stressful event better. But yeah, being in a flow state necessarily doesn't have like a it doesn't affect the stress response system that well. But it may be in a way that if you enjoy the thing that you're doing, even if it is stressful, then you experience less of the negative side effects from it. Like if you enjoy taking a sauna, then it's not going to be harmful for you. Whereas if you like start to panic inside the sauna, oh man, this is too much heat, then you may actually just freak out. You're not experiencing the harm from the sauna. You're experiencing the harm from the way you react to the sauna, like the panic and the mindset about it. And
Nice.
Hans Selye is one of the founding fathers of stress science.
Who is?
Hans Selye,
Okay.
like from the previous century, and he has a quote like, "It is not stress that kills us; it's our response to the stress that does."
Nice.
So it's always like we tend to make things worse for ourselves if we overreact to the stress or we panic and lose our control.
And that's for me. It sounds like a pretty easy mindset shift. Enjoy the stress. Learn to
you can
thrive on
like
it.
what I found the most beneficial impact come from is to remind ourselves that it can make me stronger. I can leverage this hormesis and anti-fragility, and that I can get stronger from it. Whereas if you think that this stress is making me age faster, it's making me lose my somehow like this healthy functioning of the body, then of course you're gonna think about it that it's harmful and you want to avoid it as much as possible. Whereas if you know that it can be positive, it can be beneficial, then you have an entire different approach towards life. You're not trying to conserve, you're not trying to avoid discomfort, you're
Seeking it.
Maybe not necessarily. You could definitely seek it, but at least you're not freaking out about it when it does happen.
And that's especially relevant for the more anxious people out there.
For sure.
Okay, like I think we're in the downward stretch of the interview. Tell us about this documentary that you're working on.
Yeah, we've been working on about like just stress and hormesis generally. How do you get stronger by stress, and especially use these different biohacking methods to do so? And it's hopefully will reach a wide audience. And we've been working on it for maybe like a few months already, and it's so far.
What's it called?
It's probably going to be Stronger by Stress, but
Stronger with Stress.
Stronger by Stress.
Stronger by Stress. Very nice.
But
very nice.
it's not final. It's not concluded yet.
Work in progress.
Yeah.
Keep following Simland for updates on that. I'm sure we'll be kept updated. And in wrapping up, one thing I like to ask people is, what is the most powerful idea you would want to share with our audience? If you had to choose one, no pressure.
Yeah. I think I'll take the one that I finished my presentation with as well, was by Sun Tzu. He said, "It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." So it basically means that, like, you know, this war or chaotic events, stressful events, they're going to happen anyway. And if you are a gardener in your life, then you're not really prepared for the war. Whereas if you're, even in your everyday life, you are a warrior, like you're training your stress adaptation, you're exposing yourself to different stressors, even like, you know, the physical stress, but also like the mental stress. You're not living a very like safe life all the time. You're engaged like proactively in the stress of life. Then you will also just be more able to deal with the actual stress in when it does happen, like some chaos.
Beautiful. Okay, just before we cut out, could you just repeat that one more time?
The quote.
Yeah.
The entire quote.
Yeah. No, just the
yeah. It's
better to be.
It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Thank you. Thank you, Sim.